I was just 14 years old when everything in my life changed. That morning started like any other. Dad gave me a kiss and said goodbye before leaving for work. He was the head engineer at a large architectural firm. Mom didn't even look up from her phone when he left. I remember thinking how strange that was. They used to be so affectionate with each other. My name is Sophie Carter, and that was the last time I ever saw my dad alive. That afternoon, he was in a terrible car accident on the highway. They said he died instantly. I was in science class when the principal called me to her office. Mom was already there, her makeup flawless, even after hearing such devastating news. "Your father's gone, Sophie," she said in a voice too calm for the situation. I burst into tears, but Mom just sat there, lightly patting my back like it was nothing more than a minor inconvenience. Later that evening, I heard her talking on the phone with her friend Diane. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but our house had thin walls and I could hear everything clearly. "Actually, Diane, this might be for the best," she said quietly but distinctly. "Being a widow sounds better than being divorced, plus I get everything without dealing with lawyers." Then she laughed. Yes, she actually laughed. I know, she continued. "I'll play the grieving widow at the funeral. I've already picked out the perfect black dress." I was sitting on the stairs, hand over my mouth to stop myself from screaming. Dad's brother, Uncle James, was the only one who seemed to see the truth. While everyone else offered condolences to my supposedly heartbroken mother at the funeral, Uncle James just stood there shaking his head. He knew. He had always known how poorly Mom treated Dad. Mom didn't take long to move on. Just 3 months later, she started inviting a man over for dinner. His name was Victor Reynolds, and he had 2 kids from a previous marriage, Mia, who was 13, and Liam, who was 12. Mom would prepare elaborate meals when they visited, something she never did for Dad. One evening, Mom turned to me with a sugary voice and said, "Sophie, darling, Victor and I have something to tell you." I already knew what they were about to say by the way they sat close together on the couch, holding hands with Mom smiling like a teenager. It was obvious. "We're getting married," Mom announced cheerfully. "Isn't it wonderful? You'll have a new father and siblings." I forced a smile, but my stomach felt sick. "That's great, Mom. Congratulations." Victor gave me a smile too, but it didn't feel genuine. "Mia and Liam are so excited to have a new sister," he said, but I'd seen the way his kids looked at me during their visits, like I was an unwelcome intruder in their perfectly planned future. That night, I called Uncle James and cried for hours. He listened without interrupting, then said something I'll never forget. "Sophie, sometimes the family you choose is more important than the family you're born into. Don't forget that." Mia and Liam moved in just a week after the honeymoon. Right away, they took the best rooms in the house. Even my art studio became Liam's gaming room. When I tried to protest, Mom just told me, "Don't be selfish, Sophie. We need to make them feel welcome." After marrying Victor, Mom became a completely different person. She spent hours helping Mia with her dance routines or attending Liam's basketball games. Meanwhile, I was eating dinner alone in my room. The way she looked at Victor, it was like she thought he was the most amazing person in the world. I had never seen her look at Dad that way. "Liam needs new equipment for basketball," she'd say, or "Mia is going to take private dance lessons this summer." There was always money for their needs, but when I asked for something small, even art supplies for school projects, she'd sigh or roll her eyes like I was asking for too much. So I stopped asking altogether. They started going on trips together, not extravagant ones, just weekend getaways to nearby cities or beach resorts, but I was never invited. "You'll be bored, Sophie," Mom would say, not even looking at me as she packed snacks for Mia and Liam. Besides, someone needs to feed the cat. So I'd stay with Uncle James during those trips. His modern apartment downtown felt more like home than my own house ever did. He never had children of his own, but he treated me like the daughter he always wanted. "This isn't right, Sophie," he would say while I unpacked my overnight bag for what felt like the 100th time. "A mother shouldn't play favorites." I shrugged, pretending it didn't hurt. "At least I have you, Uncle James," I said. One evening when I was 17, I brought up college during dinner. I had been researching universities online and dreaming about studying digital arts. Mom, I said carefully, waiting for the right moment when everyone seemed relaxed, I want to talk about college applications. Mom's fork dropped onto her plate. College, Sophie? We can't afford to send you to college. We have to think about Mia and Liam's education. Mia smirked across the table, and Liam didn't even try to hide his satisfied smile. Victor just kept eating like the whole conversation had nothing to do with him. Later that night, I confronted Mom in the kitchen. What about Dad's money? I asked. He had life insurance, and he saved for years. Mom's face turned cold. I've used that money to take care of you for the past 3 years, she snapped. Food, clothes, a roof over your head. Did you think that was free? Stop acting like you deserve everything. You can't just expect handouts from me. I stood there shocked by her harsh words. I knew she was lying. Dad had worked so hard to save for my future, and now all that money was gone, spent on her new perfect family while I was cast aside. That weekend I went to Uncle James's apartment, my eyes still red from crying. We sat at his kitchen counter, and the smell of fresh coffee filled the air as I told him everything, how Mom shut down my dreams of college and how unfair it all felt. Uncle James listened quietly, holding his warm mug. When I finished talking, he got up and walked to his home office without saying a word. I heard him opening and closing drawers, then he came back with a thick envelope in his hand. Your father came to see me about 2 weeks before the accident, he said, placing the envelope on the counter. He seemed worried, like he knew something bad might happen. He gave me this and made me promise to keep it safe until you were ready for college. My hands shook as I opened the envelope. Inside was a bank statement with a substantial savings account in my name. Uncle James was listed as the trustee. Dad had been secretly saving money for years, just for me. Your mom had been acting strange, Uncle James said softly. Your dad wanted to make sure your future was secure, no matter what. The money's been growing all these years. I started crying again, but this time it wasn't out of sadness. It was because I felt so thankful and loved. Even though Dad was gone, he still protected me. We can't tell your mom about this, I said. Uncle James nodded in agreement. Over the next 2 years, I focused on my schoolwork and kept my college plans a secret. Mia and Liam never missed a chance to mock me about my future. Hey, Sophie, Mia would say in the hallway, grinning. I heard the mall is hiring sales associates. You better apply soon. Liam would laugh and add, maybe if you're lucky, they'll let you be a manager someday. They'd laugh like it was the funniest joke ever. I just kept walking past them, staying quiet. My silence seemed to annoy them more than anything I could have said. Then came graduation day. I had barely taken off my cap and gown when Mom and Victor asked me to come into the living room for a serious talk. They sat on the couch like judges ready to deliver a verdict. I stood in front of them, waiting. Sophie, Victor said in a firm voice, you're 18 now. We've been more than generous, but you need to understand that you can't live here forever. It's time to get a job and take care of yourself. I smiled calmly. I understand completely. I'll be moved out by next week. They looked surprised. It was clear they thought I'd cry or argue. Mom opened her mouth to say something, but then closed it again. Well, good, Victor said, caught off guard. That's very mature of you. Neither of them asked where I would go or how I would manage. They were just happy I didn't fight back. They didn't want to ask anything that might make things complicated for them. Moving day came faster than I thought. I packed everything I owned into 2 suitcases and a few cardboard boxes. It wasn't much. It felt like I had been preparing for this moment without even knowing it. At exactly 10 a.m., Uncle James pulled up in his silver Audi. I watched him from my bedroom window, hoping someone from the house might come out, but no one did, even though I saw the curtains in Mia's room move slightly. No one said goodbye as we drove away. I watched the house where I grew up get smaller and smaller in the side mirror until it disappeared completely. I didn't cry. With every mile we drove, I felt lighter. It was like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. That house was full of fake smiles and empty love, and I was finally free. That summer, I worked at Riverbank Gallery, selling artwork and arranging exhibitions for local artists. The owner, Ms. Wilson, was kind and even let me display some of my digital art pieces. In September, I boarded a plane and left for California Institute of the Arts, 3 states away from everything I had ever known. I joined the digital arts program. It was challenging, but I gave it everything I had. My roommate, Zoe, became my first real friend since middle school. At first, she didn't know much about my past, but when she finally heard my full story, she just gave me a hug and said, "Their loss, girl. It's their loss." Mom's Instagram became the only way I could see the life I had left behind. There they were, smiling at Liam's basketball games, cheering for Mia's dance recitals, and posting beach photos from family vacations. The captions always sounded artificial, like advertisements, "So proud of our amazing kids," or "Nothing better than family time." I was never mentioned, not even once. It was like I had never existed. On holidays, I spent time at Uncle James's apartment. We cooked together and binge-watched sci-fi shows. We made our own little traditions, and they meant more to me than any of those awkward family dinners I used to have. Sometimes, Uncle James would catch me looking at Mom's social media posts. He'd gently take my phone and say, "Don't do this to yourself. You're writing your own story now." And he was right. I was. I graduated with highest honors and had job offers lined up before graduation, thanks to my impressive portfolio and internships. Zoe's mother, Ms. Rivera, owned a major animation studio. She noticed my work during a university showcase. "We need talented artists like you," she said during my interview. "Your professors speak very highly of you." I started as a junior animator, but I didn't stop there. I stayed late, took on extra projects, and studied new techniques in my free time. Within 5 years, I got promoted twice and saved enough money for a down payment on my own condo. The day I signed the papers, I stood in my empty living room holding the keys and finally let myself cry. But these weren't sad tears, they were happy ones. Tears of pride, success, and knowing I had done this all by myself. Then something incredible happened. One morning, about 7 years after I started at the company, Ms. Rivera called me into her office. "We're creating a new position," she said, handing me a folder. "Creative director for our new animation series. The board and I agree you're the right person for it." I opened the folder and almost gasped when I saw the salary. It was more money than I had ever imagined earning, especially at my age. I never felt the need to show off online. Sure, I had social media, but I mostly posted pictures of my artwork or beautiful sunset views from my condo. Uncle James was the only one who knew about my promotions, my new place, or the red Tesla I bought as a reward for getting the director job. "You've earned every bit of it," he would say, full of pride, whenever I told him about my achievements. He always cheered me on. Meanwhile, Mia and Liam's social media pages were full of ordinary things they made look extraordinary. Mia often posted pictures of herself at local dance studios with captions like, "Living my best life," or "Following my dreams." Liam would post selfies at the gym, tagging expensive fitness brands that he clearly couldn't afford. One post really made me laugh. Liam standing proudly next to his used Honda Civic with the caption, "When hard work pays off." #success, #entrepreneur. I read it while sitting in my Tesla, which was worth more than Liam made in a whole year. But I didn't feel the need to show off or prove anything to anyone. Then came the message that changed everything. It popped up on my Instagram one Tuesday morning. "Sophie, it's your mother. My 50th birthday is next month, and I'm having a party at a fancy restaurant called Azure. You've probably never heard of it. I expect you to be there. It's on the 15th at 7 p.m. sharp. Don't embarrass me." I stared at the screen, reading the message over and over. After 11 years of silence, this was how she chose to reach out. No, "How are you?" No kindness, no effort to reconnect, just a cold demand with a little insult thrown in about the restaurant. I almost deleted the message, but something stopped me. Maybe I was just curious, or maybe I wanted to see how it would all play out. I called Ms. Rivera and asked for a week off from work. That same evening, while sipping wine in Uncle James's stylish apartment, he asked me a question I had been asking myself. "What are you planning to give her?" I smiled and pulled out my phone, showing him the confirmation email. It was a luxury vacation package to the Maldives, 2 weeks at a five-star resort with first-class flights included. The whole thing cost around $180,000. Uncle James's eyes went wide. Sophie, that's way too much. She doesn't deserve it. Oh, I know she doesn't, I said with a laugh, taking another sip of wine. But can you imagine the look on her face when she realizes what she gave up? The daughter she tossed aside turned out more successful than she ever dreamed. I just want to see her reaction when she realizes how wrong she was about me. Uncle James chuckled and shook his head. You're a little bit devious, he said with a smile. I love it. On the evening of Mom's birthday, I put on a simple but elegant Prada dress. It looked understated, and its price could have bought 10 of the flashy outfits I'd end up seeing that night. I took an Uber to the restaurant on purpose, knowing it would add to their misconceptions about my life. Azure was exactly what I expected, the kind of place that only impressed people who had never eaten at a truly upscale restaurant. They served pre-made dishes and just added truffle shavings on everything to make it seem expensive. I had been to business dinners at places so exclusive that this restaurant looked more like a chain diner in comparison. A hostess led me to a private room where the party was already going strong. Mom sat at the head of the table in a sparkly gold dress that glittered under the chandelier. Victor sat next to her, with Mia and Liam on either side, acting like they were royalty. The rest of the table was full of family members I hadn't seen in over a decade. There was Aunt Carla, who used to criticize my art, and Cousin Nathan, who always bragged about his expensive hobbies. A bunch of other familiar faces from my past were also there. Mom looked at me for just a second, then gave a fake smile. Oh, Sophie, you actually came. You could have dressed up a little more for the occasion. I quietly took my seat at the far end of the table and watched everything unfold. Old Aunt Carla gave Mom a set of designer perfumes. It's from that nice little boutique downtown, she said proudly. Mom acted like it was something very special, though I could tell it was from a discount outlet. Then Cousin Nathan gave her a gift card to a spa for a day of pampering, he said with a big smile. Mom squealed with happiness again. The gifts kept coming: a cookbook, a vase, a basket of imported chocolates. Mom acted like each one was the most thoughtful thing ever, making sure to thank everyone loudly. Then it was Mia and Liam's turn. They stood up together, smiling like they had just won a prize. Mom, Liam began. It still felt weird to hear him call her that. Mia and I saved up to get you something really special. Mia pulled out her phone and showed a photo. It's a weekend getaway to the mountain resort. We already booked it for next month. Mom started crying right away. She hugged both of them tight. My wonderful, generous children. I can't believe this. You must have saved up for so long. Then, finally, everyone looked at me. I reached into my purse and took out a small box. It was simple but elegantly wrapped. Mom's smile disappeared instantly. Her face changed. What's this supposed to be? Just open it and see, I said quietly. But she didn't open it. Instead, she got angry. Her face turned red. This is exactly what I expected from you, she said sharply. You show up in that plain dress, probably the only nice thing you own. You take an Uber because you can't even afford a car, and now this. This tiny box? What could possibly be in there? A gift card to Starbucks. She threw the box back at me. It slid across the table and scratched the cheap surface. Mia and Liam giggled behind their hands. Some guests looked uncomfortable. Others seemed to be enjoying the drama. Victor just kept eating his dessert like nothing was happening. I calmly picked up the box and brushed off a few crumbs from the tablecloth that had stuck to the pretty wrapping. The room was completely quiet. Everyone was waiting to see what I would do next. You know what's funny, Mom? I said, my voice steady. Inside this little box is a receipt for a luxury vacation to the Maldives. First-class flights, a five-star resort, everything included. It's worth $180,000. Mom's face turned pale. Mia dropped her fork with a loud clatter. That's not possible, Mom stuttered. You can't afford something like that. You're lying. I couldn't help but laugh a little. You'd know what I can afford if you had cared about my life even once in the last 11 years. But since you didn't, let me update you. I'm a creative director at Rivera Animation Studios. I own a beachfront condo, and that Uber you made fun of? I took it because I didn't want to leave my Tesla parked in this neighborhood. Liam's mouth hung open. Mia wasn't smiling anymore. And since you think I'm such a failure, I continued as I slipped the box back into my purse and clearly don't want anything from me. I won't bother you anymore. Enjoy your weekend getaway. I heard the resort is almost as nice as the ones I stay at for business trips. I stood up and walked out with my head high. The sound of my heels echoed in the quiet room. No one said a word. The restaurant host called an Uber for me, and I went straight to Uncle James's apartment. He was already waiting with 2 glasses of wine ready on the coffee table. I told him everything that had happened. Some people never change, he said, shaking his head. Your mother has always cared more about appearances than actual relationships. We were still talking when my phone started ringing. It was an unknown number, but I knew who it was. Sophie, sweetheart. Mom's voice sounded overly sweet. I had no idea how she got my number. I've been thinking about what happened. Have you? I asked calmly. Yes, she said. I realize I may have spoken too soon. If you're still willing to give me that gift, I'd love to accept it. We could use this as a fresh start. I want to be in your life again. We're family. No, I said, finally understanding everything. We're not really family. We're just people who share the same DNA. You don't want to fix anything. You just want the vacation. Then I hung up. Even after I left town, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Mom tried calling from different numbers, her cell, the house phone, even Victor's phone. When she saw I wasn't going to answer, she started sending messages. Sophie, please call me back. We need to talk about this. She kept texting me. I've been thinking about what you said about your job. Maybe you could help me get started in animation? She's very artistic. Liam said he'd love to intern at a big company like yours. It would look great on his resume. Also, the house needs some renovations, and since you're doing so well. Each message was more transparent than the last. No, I'm sorry, no, I was wrong. Just one request after another. Hints about money, favors, and help for her kids. It felt like watching someone at a slot machine trying to win back what they lost. But in this case, what Mom lost wasn't money. It was me, her daughter. I read each message without feeling much. It was like I was reading a work email. I started noticing the patterns, like a study in how people try to manipulate others. She used different tactics. Guilt. I'm your mother. How can you ignore me? Flattery. You've become such a successful woman. Manipulation. Family should help family. Threats. I'll tell everyone how you abandoned your own mother. A week after I got back home, Uncle James called me. Your mom's been calling me nonstop, he said, and guess what? She showed up at my apartment today, if you can believe it. She demanded that I give her your address. What did you tell her? I asked, though I already knew the answer. I told her to leave my property or I'd call security, Uncle James said with a little laugh. You should have seen her face. She kept saying she had a right to know where her daughter lives. I reminded her she gave up that right a long time ago. I pictured Mom standing in Uncle James's lobby, probably wearing one of her fancy outfits, trying to force her way into getting what she wanted. It was the same behavior I'd seen my whole life, but now I could clearly see it for what it really was. She didn't take it well, Uncle James continued. She started yelling, saying we were both ungrateful, that she'd sacrificed everything for you. I think the whole building heard her shouting. When she realized I wasn't going to help, she stormed off. But Sophie, be careful, she seemed desperate. I've already blocked her on everything, I told Uncle James. Social media, phone, email, everything. And I've told security at my office not to let her in if she ever shows up. After we hung up, I walked around my condo, looking at everything I'd worked so hard for, the modern furniture I picked out myself, the artwork on the walls, the beautiful ocean view outside my window. Every part of it came from my own hard work. Then I thought about Mom's messages. Now that she knew I had money, Mom suddenly showed interest in my life. In the end, it was almost funny. She had thrown away her relationship with me just to create the illusion of a perfect family, and now she wanted back into my life just to benefit from my success. But if she taught me anything, it was this: family isn't about blood or legal documents. It's about love, support, and being there for each other through good times and bad. I had that with Uncle James. The next morning, I called the travel agency and changed the name on the Maldives vacation package. Now it was under James Carter. When I told Uncle James, he tried to say no, but I smiled and told him, "You deserve this more than she ever did. You've been more of a parent to me than she ever was." Uncle James hugged me tightly, and for the first time in many years, I truly felt like I was right where I belonged.